Not long ago, I showed you a clip of Jon Stewart absolutely grilling the Democrats for making the massive blunder of putting Kamala Harris forward for 2024. And honestly, he didn't hold back at all.
We ran the results in the computer 100,000 times. She won 50,000 and what? He won 40,000 and 99, 90, 99. But in this coin flip country, I was confident because the Democrats had a secret weapon.
So what, or better yet, who was the secret weapon Jon Stewart believed could turn the tide and save the nation from spiraling politically? That's the real million-dollar question.
Since joining the race, the vice president has raised an eye-boggling $1 billion.
Call me eyes-boggled. See, the Democrats in a 50-50 election had $1 billion.
That secret weapon, arguably the most critical one for the Democrats, was the billion-dollar war chest raised by Kamala Harris. And let me be real, when I heard the actual amount, $1.5 billion, I gave up hope of Trump returning to the White House. I knew the odds were crushed. Apparently, Jon Stewart felt the same. But sadly, that dream crumbled when Harris blew all that money on this.
There was a lot of texting. A lot of that money went to, how the did they just text me? I'm in the tub. I don't even have my phone. It just came through the water.
Out of all the things Kamala Harris and the DNC could have invested in analytics, polling, consultants, research, they chose text messages. Yep, you read that right. Non-stop spam. Especially the ones from Tim Walz. You'd be in the middle of something, get a buzz, check your phone back its walls again. And believe it or not, that wasn't even the worst misuse of their campaign funds.
The $1 billion went towards the one thing Republicans couldn't have, that would put the Democrats over the top.
The Harris campaign has a massive ground game, 50,000 volunteers.
With volunteers knocking on 5 million doors in Pennsylvania alone.
Oh yes, they actually dumped millions into recruiting door-to-door volunteers. In today's age of digital media and AI-driven outreach, they chose the most outdated tactic imaginable. Full 1980s mode. That's why Jon Stewart is still furious. Even 9 months post-election, he watched them burn through $1.5 billion like it was play money on knocking doors and awkward porch chats.
There's one thing people love. More than someone appearing randomly at their door once. It's that same person coming back 2 or 3 times to talk politics.
That one strategy likely lost more voters than it gained. I mean, if you're so confident in your message, why barge into people's privacy? And it wasn't new people each time, it was the same volunteers, same faces, knocking again and again. It felt more like harassment than campaigning. The doorbell turned into a trigger. Rather than convincing swing voters, they irritated and alienated them. It reeked of panic, not planning.
Even though everyone from vacuum salesmen to Jehovah's Witnesses know that's a losing strategy. In fact, they've known that for decades. Let's just spend $250 million on it.
According to Jon Stewart, the Democrats knew it was a doomed plan but pushed ahead anyway. And that's what frustrated him the most. He went after the DNC, not just for the door-knocking fiasco, but for their clear lack of vision and strategic sense. To him, this wasn't just a campaign error, it was an epic leadership collapse. Instead of inspiring voters with bold ideas, they recycled ancient methods. Stewart said the DNC wasn't just clueless, they were willfully blind. And in that blindness, they handed the GOP momentum on a silver platter.
Whatever money is left over, send those same people back to those voters' doors. And just knock again during dinner. And when the homeowner comes to the door, go, "What the Scott?"
That takedown from Stewart was brutal, but, honestly, I'd say it was necessary. If the Democrats couldn't see from day one that the plan was doomed, then yes, they deserved the consequences. Accountability isn't optional. Since Stewart's viral roast, the Democrats have entered full meltdown mode, making absurd, disconnected comments and raving about issues nobody's talking about. It's like watching a political reality show spiral. Confusion, tantrums, panic at this point. Even their diehard fans are embarrassed.
Can you believe the Democrat squad of A-list celebrities wasn't enough to get Kamala over the line, how did the American public resist the call from these learned souls who are so in touch with the average American and whose moral compass is pure and true and who are never prone to crazy delusions?
It can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him, take him at his word.
Robert De Niro's breakdown was something else, especially coming from the guy who's basically made a second career out of trashing Trump. He's ranted in interviews, award shows, even had public fights with Trump fans. So when Jon Stewart, another liberal icon, called out the Democrats for their terrible strategy, De Niro snapped. What you saw in that clip, that was his world collapsing, not from Republican attacks, but from one of his own allies tearing the narrative apart.
We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy.
And it wasn't just celebrities losing it. A few media figures lost their grip too. Right at the top was Joy Reid, Kamala's #1 cheerleader. Reid went into full meltdown mode, accusing America of choosing fascism over democracy. In her dramatic retelling, Trump wasn't a political rival, he was Hitler 2.0, bent on destroying all that's good, and who helped him? According to her, half the country. This wasn't analysis, it was an emotional tantrum wrapped in hysteria. Instead of asking why voters rejected the left's message, she branded them all as evil. And believe me, Reid wasn't alone in losing her mind.
Oh, I'm not transphobic, but what exactly you're about to tell me the most dehumanizing thing I've ever heard of you believe about trans people? You're about to tell me you're voting for Trump? You're about to tell me that you don't think trans women should use the women's bathroom? If you need to put a disclaimer and that but, maybe keep that thought to yourself. Maybe let's try and think of another thought.
Here's another meltdown, this one from someone who just couldn't process why people voted for Trump. Brace yourself. The self-importance is unreal. I mean, seriously, how does voting for Trump equal dehumanizing trans people? Let's unpack that. Does casting a Trump vote erase trans rights? Strip their identity? No, not even close. But activists and media types love spinning things into a disaster movie. Trump's been back in office a few months now. His focus, border security, the economy, national defense, not erasing trans existence. But instead of facts, they prefer performative outrage. Supporting the candidate you think can fix the country isn't hate, it's democracy. Speaking of which, wait till you see what happens when a polite driver calls a woman Miss.
I'm telling you, it's a friggin' problem.
And I'm saying to you, thank you, miss. And then all of a sudden you start to be angry.
Why would you say thank you, miss? I don't.
Because I'm trying to be polite.
But how do you know I identify as a miss? I might be a miss.
Identify it?
I might be something else.
I don't know. I'm not asking for identification ID. I'm just saying thank you, miss.
I think it was disrespectful.
How is it disrespectful?
Because you don't know me. I literally just got in your cab.
Yeah, and you said nice car, and then I say thank you, miss.
5 minutes.
Okay.
And you call me miss when it's not your place, is it? You're not family. You're not a friend.
But I'm trying to be polite, saying thank you, miss.
I don't think that's polite. I think that's disrespectful.
Disrespectful to what?
To me.
How is it disrespectful to you?
How do you know I identify as anything?
What do you mean, identify?
You know, like gender.
Gender?
Yeah.
What do you mean by gender?
I might be a they.
No, you're that. You're a woman. You're a woman over here. I can see with my eyes.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So that makes it okay.
Okay for what? You give me compliment,
so
and then I give you thank you.
If I would say to you, thank you, mister, do you think that's alright? You
Of course.
Think that sounds disrespectful?
Usually people in England using English, they say sir. So maybe you say sir. I don't know. Hey, mister is okay, but maybe you don't have educations, or maybe you only say mister. I don't know.
Okay, this one might be the most ridiculous thing I've seen all week. Picture this, a clearly female passenger asks her cab driver how he knows she's a woman. He replies calmly, because my eyes don't lie. Seems reasonable, right? Nope, she loses it. Total meltdown over so-called misgendering. Pause here. When did seeing reality become offensive? The poor guy was just answering her question honestly, and suddenly he's caught in a gender politics crossfire. You can't make this stuff up. It's not just hilarious, it's a sad snapshot of how far we've drifted into absurdity.
I hate this. No, that's not how we do it. Let me show you how we take care of the creature. Let me show you how we take care of the creature. Go, Rita!
Breaking your own TV because you're angry at a foreign leader or triggered by a news segment. That's easily one of the dumbest protest moves out there. Let's be real, just turn it off. Problem solved. But no, some genius decides to destroy their flat screen. Congrats, now you're broke and angry. And what happens when you get a new TV and see the same face? Smash that one too. Maybe toss your phone next time you see him on YouTube. At this rate, you'll need therapy and a GoFundMe for electronics. This is what happens when emotion overrides reason. Tantrums, broken gadgets, public freakouts, from actors to activists. The reactions have become the headline. Maybe it's time to chill, think, and stop torching your stuff over politics. And hi, if you're loving this content, hit like and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.